Hello Rebrand gang, and welcome to episode 63 of Rebrand Everything, the graphic design show where I redesign the logo of big or famous companies. In today's video, I'm going to be redesigning the IKEA logo, so let's get into it. So I'm pretty sure that almost everybody knows what IKEA is, but just in case you don't, it is a flat pack furniture store. They are a Swedish company, and as you will see, their logo heavily reflects that as it uses the colours from the Swedish flag. This is their old logo that they used up until 2019, and this is their new logo that was updated in 2019. Did you see what changed? So let's have a close look at this. The proportions of the whole shape have been adjusted so that it's a little bit narrower and taller. The colours have been adjusted. Super subtle change, but the blue is a shade darker, which definitely helps make it feel more classy. The registered mark has been moved to within the oval, cleaning up the silhouette and making the logo easier to align with other elements on the page. And the wording has been made bigger inside the oval. The wording being made bigger like this is the only part of the update that I'm not quite sure on. Whilst I can see why they did it, to my eyes the text now looks uncomfortably close to the oval. As a logo is rarely ever seen on a white background on its own like this, I did a little bit more research to see how they use the logo in real life situations. The outside of their shop looks like this, and this is interesting because they are actually using the text from the logo straight onto a blue wall, so there's no oval or registered mark required. Also, I was about to make a comment about how IKEA used the font Verdana, which is pretty ugly to my eyes, and I never really thought it fitted that well. But I've just checked their website and noticed that they've changed that now to something called Noto IKEA, which must be a custom font. So I'm aware that the 2019 logo update that they had was meant to go unnoticed by the general public. A brand with this level of recognition and consistency would be absolutely crazy to make massive changes to the logo for essentially no reason. However, I'm not going to let that stop us exploring some new options in today's video, and I'm going to start right now by sketching out some ideas. So as usual, the sketching stage is the messy bit of the process where I just draw out everything that springs to mind, no filter, no sort of prejudging of ideas, just write everything down and draw everything out. In the case of IKEA, I really wanted to try and keep this a pretty realistic rebrand, so the ideas were mostly text-based, as I think adding an icon would be unnecessary at this point in time when their brand is so heavily recognisable by the blue and yellow anyway. A few of the more notable thoughts that I was playing with was the idea of creating a kind of flat pack logo, where I put each letter inside a square which represents like a flat pack piece or maybe the box that the products come in. And then I was thinking that the logo could be built to fit each individual situation. Another different idea that I had was to kind of make the letters out of individual pieces and then use like hex key slots as to make it look like they were being joined. But when I actually drew this out, even at the sketching stage, I could kind of sense that it wasn't going to work too well, as it's kind of focusing on the worst bit of the process, which is building the object, and also generally a visible screw on furniture is not really something that you want to see. They're kind of good to be hidden away. And then as you can see here, I've got a few other ideas, but because I'm not working in colour at this point, I kind of needed to move into Illustrator quite early in the process once I had these general shapes and ideas drawn out. So yeah, let's move over into Illustrator and see if we can turn these into something usable. Okay then, for option 1, I wanted this to be an evolution of the current logo, retaining the existing IKEA vibe whilst becoming more modernised and feel less confined by the oval. I tried a few things so I could compare varying levels of detail. For example, to combat the oval feeling too close to the text, I tried putting the oval outside of the rectangle, which was incredibly daring, I know. I also tried using the oval within the rectangle but trimming around the edges to allow for more room for the text to breathe. Whilst all of this was good exploration, all it really did is make me realise that anything other than the yellow typography on the blue background was unnecessary complexity. So with that in mind, I focused on developing the very first idea I had, which was the simplest, and making it street legal by adding the registered mark back in. Based on the fact that this idea is very similar to what they have on the front of their buildings, I really think this logo could work. And font check for option 1, this is Avenir Next Heavy.
2.
Okay, so I'm thinking that if the current IKEA logo never existed and a designer made that logo today and asked for reviews, people would say that the layout of it doesn't really fit the kind of friendly feel that you get from the company. Therefore, for option 2, I wanted to create something that felt a little lighter whilst retaining some of the strength of the current logo. I went all in on the lowercase look, which I'm sure I'll get some stick for in the comments, but I feel like this gives it a more casual look. In the font that I used, the dot on the I was actually a circle, and I felt like this was maybe a little bit too casual, so I swapped that out to be a square, which I think works nicely with the rest of the letters and makes the logo feel a little bit more robust than when the circle was there. Once that was done, I spent far more time than I should focusing on the position of this registered mark. I'm just really not liking how often I see a registered mark that hasn't been considered when it's been put on the side of a logo. It looks like it's just been slapped there as it's a necessity, and it looks like often it just gets no thought, it kind of just gets typed in and then saved. Font check for option 2, this is Europa Bold.
3.
Okay, so option 3 was one of the ideas that I'd drawn out in the sketchbook, but in the back of my mind I was actually pretty sure that it wasn't going to work. Basically, the idea is to create the Swedish flag within the logo itself. Now, although this idea seems pretty simple, it's actually a massive balancing act of font thicknesses and spacing. In doing this, I actually came across something that I hadn't ever really explored before, which is these variable fonts. For example, this font here called Source Sans Variable, which is available on Adobe fonts, has your usual light, regular and bold cuts, but it also has a slider button, and then when you click that you can literally choose any thickness of font that you want. This was really cool and actually helped me big time on this particular logo. It helped me balance out the line thickness to make like a true Swedish flag. I grabbed a picture of a Swedish flag off of Google and chucked that in just to make sure that my proportions were correct and like the position of the vertical line. Now, even though I've just said all that and the process was pretty good for this one, I don't actually think that the final product is a complete masterpiece, but it does still clearly say IKEA and it does include a true Swedish flag, so what more could I ask for?
4.
For option 4, I had this idea that we treat each letter of the logo like a product in a box. In a way, this idea is actually more than one logo, as the idea of it would be that we can rearrange the boxes to fit the application. So in its simplest form, when we have a short but wide space, we use the letters next to each other, but for something like a square profile picture, we would put the EA underneath the IK to create a stacked variant of the logo. I started out making this super simple by putting the letters in a square, and then that's it. I thought that looked a little bit boring, so I added like another inset square with a stroke on it, just to add that little something extra. So after developing this for a little while, the last thing I tried was combining the blue behind the letters and yellow boxes to make all the letters feel slightly more like a word and less like an acronym. I was finding that where I had the like yellow box inside the blue box and then a break between the next box, maybe people would read it as like IKEA, but it's like almost like punctuation between the letters. I mean, I don't think it actually would matter if people thought it was IKEA, because IKEA has been around so long anyway, everybody knows what it is. But yeah, I just wanted to make it that little bit more readable. Font check for option 4, this actually is the same as option 3, source code variable.
5.
Okay, so can you believe that I got all the way to option 5 before realising that I hadn't actually done anything that uses the current IKEA word mark? And that's obviously super recognisable and super well known, so yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. After getting over the severe disappointment in myself, I decided to rebuild the word without any of the serify parts that they use. And to do that, I basically, as you can see here, just laid rectangles over the top and then just moved the points with the direct selection tool. I think the outcome was pretty good, and while some people would see what I've done here by removing the serifs as just they would see that as removing the character, I'm seeing it as a step closer to the feel of their products, which are usually super minimal style design. So after about 4 hours of staring at this word mark without blinking, I finally realised that what it was missing is just some sort of yellow element. I added a solid line underneath the word IKEA, and to make sure it didn't just look like I'd clicked the underline button in Microsoft Word, I made sure that the alignment was exact and the spacing between the word and the line was the same as the gap between the I and the K. That spacing consistency just makes a big difference and kind of is a big part of whether a logo looks amateur or professional. I'm pretty happy with the outcome of this one. I mean, the only thing I'm slightly concerned about is like for the sign on the front of the building, all the text would probably have to be yellow on a blue background, so would we need to include the underline? I'm not sure. Maybe the underline could be cool because it kind of represents like a foundation maybe, but it just sounds a little bit like designer BS, but yeah, let me know what you think. Font check for option 5. I don't actually know what this one is because I just drew over their old logo, but when I check Google, it says that their current logo font is called IKEA Sans, which is likened to a serifed Futura. Okay then, Rebrand gang, just before I show you them final options, I want to remind you to click the little I button up here and vote for your favourite option in the poll, and then head straight down to the comments below and let me know why that was your favourite and what you might have done differently. Please remember to press like on this video if you haven't already, and press subscribe if you want to see videos like this every single week, and put the bell on if you want to be notified when I premiere the video so you're the first to watch as well. If you would like to submit a rebrand idea, visit rebrandeverything.com and fill out the form and I'll add that to the list. Okay then, Rebrand gang, let's see them final options.